You need to watch this if you crave chills down your spine. Welcome to Soul Studios. Here, true crime meets the unknown. Suspense lurks in every shadow, and supernatural forces whisper from the dark. We craft chilling, edge-of-your-seat short stories inspired by the eerie, the unexplained, and the most haunting mysteries. 3 new stories drop every week, each one darker than the last. Are you ready to step inside? Subscribe now before the next story finds you.
In the fall of 2018, a quiet Tennessee town was shaken by a discovery that felt more like a nightmare than reality. A married couple vanished one October evening, only for rescuers to uncover them in circumstances so unthinkable it left even seasoned investigators haunted. What began as a drive through the countryside spiraled into one of the most claustrophobic, terrifying ordeals imaginable, an ordeal that would expose the darkest corners of love, trust, and survival. This is not just a story about being trapped. It's a story about betrayal, desperation, and the chilling truth of what people are capable of when pushed to the brink. If you think you know the people closest to you, think again. Subscribe to Soul Studios for more true account-style horror stories that will keep you questioning what's real long after the screen goes dark, because the next story might just be the one that follows you into the night. In October 2018, a chilling discovery in rural Tennessee revealed a nightmare beyond belief. It was a crisp autumn dawn on a remote Tennessee farm. 2 rescue workers frantically claw at a mound of freshly turned earth. Their shovels strike wood. Hearts pounding, they pry open a dirt-caked coffin lid. Inside lies a husband and wife entombed alive, eyes bulging in terror, skin slick with cold sweat and soil. The couple gasps at the sudden flood of air, clinging to life in a coffin meant to be their grave. For 48 agonizing minutes, they've shared this suffocating darkness. As trembling hands pull them out, one question hangs in the morning mist. How on earth did they end up buried alive together? Meet Ethan Harper, 34, and Lena Harper, 30, of Pine Hollow, Tennessee. On the surface, a normal married couple. Ethan, a quiet handyman with a modest business. Lena, a church volunteer and loving wife. But beneath that wholesome veneer lurked desperation. Bills piled up, Ethan's work was drying up, and the couple was on the brink of financial ruin. Then in the summer of 2018, Ethan's $250,000 life insurance policy matured, a policy naming Lena as the sole beneficiary. It was meant as security for their future, but for Lena it became an irresistible temptation. Behind Ethan's back, Lena made secret calls and hushed arrangements. Unbeknownst to her husband, she was planning something unspeakable, a scheme to fake his death and cash in that insurance. Or so she convinced herself at first, fake the death. In truth, Lena's plan turned darker. She decided it would be much simpler to kill Ethan and play the grieving widow. Lena enlisted the help of an old friend, Travis, a local gravedigger with a shaky past and a need for cash. Together, they plotted a staged accident. The plan? Bury Ethan alive in a coffin on a deserted piece of land, then later discover his body and claim the money. It was a grotesque plan born of greed and fear, one that would soon spiral beyond Lena's control. Meanwhile, Ethan noticed subtle changes in his wife, a strained smile, nervous glances, late-night texting. A week before Halloween, Ethan found a receipt in Lena's purse for an unusually large wooden box, a coffin purchased under a false name. His blood ran cold. Rather than confront her immediately, Ethan made a fateful choice. He pretended everything was fine. He needed to know exactly what she was up to. In secret, he altered the beneficiary on his own life insurance, naming his sister instead of Lena, and set up his smartphone's emergency SOS feature. If something happened, a single press would silently dial 911 and broadcast his GPS location. Ethan was determined to turn the tables, but he had no idea how nightmarish the finale would be. On October 21st, 2018, Lena lured Ethan on a drive out to look at a fixer-upper property she pretended to want to buy, a remote patch of farmland miles from anywhere. Ethan's gut churned as he realized this was the showdown. Still, he played along. By late afternoon, under a grey sky, they arrived at an old barn lot with nobody in sight. Except someone was there. Travis waited in the barn's shadows, shovel in hand, a crude coffin already half buried in a pit nearby. Lena's voice trembled as she suggested Ethan help her inspect something in the barn. The moment Ethan stepped inside, Travis struck him across the back of the head with the shovel. Ethan crumpled to the ground, seeing stars. Lena stood over him, face pale but determined, as Travis bound Ethan's wrists with duct tape. For a moment, Lena hesitated. Her husband's eyes flickered with hurt and betrayal as he drifted in and out of consciousness. But she steeled herself, reminding herself of debts, of freedom, of that money. Together, Lena and Travis dragged Ethan's limp body toward the yawning coffin in the earth. Thunder rumbled in the distance. They placed Ethan inside the wooden box. Lena leaned over her husband's face, whispering shakily, "I'm sorry, I have no choice." Then, unexpectedly, Ethan's eyes shot open. He had been only playing unconscious. In a burst of rage and adrenaline, he lunged upward, grabbing Lena's arm with a vice grip. Lena shrieked as Ethan pulled her off balance. In one chaotic instant, she toppled forward into the coffin, landing on top of her husband. Startled, Travis instinctively slammed the coffin lid down. Lena's screams turned muffled. Ethan's fists pounded from inside the box. Travis staggered back, panicking. This was not part of the plan. Lena's betrayal of Ethan had now led to Travis's betrayal of Lena. He wanted no witnesses, no loose ends. He began nailing the coffin shut as Lena and Ethan writhed in panic beneath him. "Travis, no!" Lena howled from inside, her voice muffled and raw, but Travis's blood was up. Fear and self-preservation took over. Within minutes, he shoveled dirt over the coffin, faster and faster, burying the couple alive together. Lena and Ethan, now entombed in darkness, could only hear the horrifying scrape of each shovelful of earth, sealing them in. Finally, all went quiet, but their own terrified breathing. Travis fled into the dusk, leaving husband and wife to die together in their silent grave. Pitch blackness, the air hot and thin. Lena and Ethan lay pressed chest to chest in the tight confines of the coffin, their bodies nearly immobilized. Dirt leaked in through the coffin's seams, peppering their skin and filling the air with an earthy, suffocating scent. For a moment, neither spoke, only their ragged breaths and pounding hearts. Ethan was first to break the silence. "How could you do this to me?" he rasped, voice shaking with fury. Lena choked on a sob in the dark. I'm sorry, it wasn't supposed to be like this." She began to babble, panicked that she never meant to be in here with him. It was supposed to be quick. She would have dug him up after he suffocated. She thought he wouldn't suffer. Her rationalizations only fueled Ethan's rage. In the coffin's claustrophobic heat, Ethan's mind raced. Betrayal by his own wife, left to die underground, it was unthinkable. Every muscle screamed for oxygen and escape. He fought the urge to panic. Panicking would only make them burn through oxygen faster. Instead, Ethan remembered the plan he had prepared. With fingers trembling in the dark, he felt for his phone in his pocket. Gone. Travis must have tossed it. But on Ethan's wrist, under his long sleeve, was his smartwatch. Silently, he pressed and held the hidden side button. 1, 2, 3. He prayed the SOS signal went through the soil to reach any cell tower. Lena, sobbing, felt Ethan's arm move. "What are you doing?" she cried, fear spiking that he might be reaching to hurt her. In truth, part of Ethan did want to hurt her. He remembered the insurance, the lies. This coffin was meant to be his tomb, and it was her doing. Teeth clenched, Ethan snarled, "If I'm dying here, I'm not dying alone." Lena's breath caught. She realized with dawning horror that Ethan might kill her right now to conserve oxygen for himself. A cold survival logic settled over Ethan's face that Lena had never seen before. Lena started hyperventilating, kicking her legs in a futile attempt to push the lid. But there was no room. "Please, we have to save our air. Please, He fell silent, trying to keep calm as sweat dripped down his brow. A few minutes ticked by in stifling silence. They could hear each other's pulse pounding in their ears. Every breath counts. Each gulp of air they took was stealing time from the other. At the 1 hour mark, the air turned noticeably thinner and hotter. Lena's sobs had faded into whimpers, Ethan's anger dampened by encroaching dread. He tried pushing at the lid with his back. No budge. Dirt crumbled in through a crack, sprinkling Lena's hair. She stilled, realizing the soil could collapse in if they tried to force a way out, potentially crushing them. They were utterly trapped. In the quiet, Lena began to confess in fragmented whispers how she felt cornered by debt, how Travis convinced her it was easy money. "We could have started over, I thought. I thought I'd get you back out eventually, I swear," she sputtered deliriously. Ethan didn't know what to believe. His lungs burned with each shallow inhale. Rage and heartbreak warred within him. Revenge or forgiveness. He wrapped an arm tightly around Lena. She tensed, uncertain if it was a consoling hug or a restraint. In truth, Ethan himself wasn't sure. Minutes later, Lena's breathing grew rapid and erratic, a full-blown panic attack in the coffin's narrow space. She started thrashing, elbows jabbing into Ethan's sides as she screamed, "We're going to die here." Her thrashing sapped precious oxygen and jostled the tiny pocket of breathable air. Ethan, fighting dizziness, clamped a hand over her mouth instinctively. "Stop it! You'll use it all up," he growled. Lena bit his palm in terror. He yelped, yanking his hand back. In the darkness, their long-suppressed, ugliest selves emerged. Ethan's fingers found Lena's throat in a moment of blind fury, perhaps to silence her, or perhaps to end her. Lena gagged, clawing at his arms. They rolled awkwardly in the confines, a grotesque parody of an embrace, each struggling for survival. But as quickly as it flared, Ethan's rage subsided to horror at himself. He released her, leaving them both gasping and stunned. Lena wept softly. Every breath now shallow, she was growing weaker. Ethan's head swam, his vision dotted with sparks in the absolute dark. This can't be how it ends, he thought. They listened to the soil creak above, the coffin wood straining. Suddenly, between their muffled heartbeats, there was another sound, a faint rumbling from above. Was it hallucination, or could that be voices? Ethan held his breath. Yes, a distant bark, and what sounded like a man calling out. Lena heard it too. "Help! We're down here!" She screamed with the last strength in her lungs, thumping the lid. Ethan joined, kicking and punching the coffin lid in a frenzy. Dirt rained on their faces with each blow, threatening to choke them, but above the voices grew clearer. The couple broke into renewed sobs of relief and terror, unsure if anyone could truly hear them. Up on the surface, a rescue team was indeed desperately digging. Ethan's SOS signal had reached 911. A dispatcher pinpointed a strange distress call coordinates out by the old farm road. Within 30 minutes, sheriff's deputies arrived with K9 units that caught Travis's scent near the fresh grave. They radioed for backup and started to dig, not knowing if anyone was alive down there. Now, planks of wood gave way as a shovel breached the coffin's lid. A beam of daylight burst into the coffin. Ethan gulped in the fresh air, half-blinded, screaming hoarsely for help. Lena lay limp on his chest, barely conscious. Strong arms hauled Lena out first, then Ethan. He refused to let go of her hand even as he coughed up dust. Both of them smeared in mud and tears. Paramedics fitted oxygen masks over their faces. Against all odds, they had survived their burial. As Lena was loaded into an ambulance, an officer asked Ethan who had done this. Ethan, voice muffled by the mask, fixed a shattered gaze on his wife. "She did. We did this to each other," he whispered cryptically. Lena began sobbing anew, shaking her head in weak denial as medics restrained her. The truth was out, but the nightmare wasn't over. In the days that followed, investigators unraveled the sinister plot. Lena confessed her role in planning to murder Ethan for the insurance payout. Travis, caught the next day, admitted to burying them both when the plan went awry. It seemed straightforward, until the detective shared an odd detail with Ethan in the hospital. "Your smartwatch's SOS is the only reason we found you so fast. Did you trigger it deliberately?" Ethan's exhausted eyes met the detective's. He simply nodded, too drained to explain. He had anticipated something going wrong and prepared for it, a fact that saved his life. But it raised a disturbing question. How much did Ethan truly know beforehand? Lena, now facing criminal charges, accused Ethan of suspecting her all along and setting a trap. In her version, he had wanted her in that coffin, that he dragged her down on purpose. Ethan, however, claimed it was a desperate accident, born of panic. The truth lies 6 feet under, known only to the two who were buried together. In the eerie aftermath, people in Pine Hollow were left to wonder who betrayed whom first, and whether a darker justice was at work that night. The Harpers' terrifying ordeal leaves us with a chilling thought. In that coffin, it wasn't just bodies that were laid bare, but the ugliest secrets of a marriage. Greed and betrayal put Ethan and Lena in the ground. Ironically, those same sins might have saved Ethan's life while ending Lena's freedom. Who was the real mastermind and who was the pawn? The story of Ethan and Lena Harper remains partly ambiguous, a macabre puzzle. Perhaps Ethan anticipated more than he ever admitted. Perhaps Lena's guilt was compounded by knowing Ethan outsmarted her in the end. We're left with fragments of a truth as cold as the October soil. One thing is certain. Buried alive together in the suffocating dark, each became the other's undoing. And as this claustrophobic nightmare proves, sometimes the only thing more terrifying than being trapped with your worst enemy is realizing that person used to be the one you loved most. In the end, it wasn't just soil that buried Ethan and Lena. It was betrayal, greed, and secrets that rotted their marriage from within. Trapped together in the dark, each became the other's executioner and savior all at once. Some graves are dug with shovels, but others are dug with lies. Buried alive, bound by betrayal, and in the coffin, there is no truth, only survival.
Every story has an end, but here, the mysteries never stop. Thank you for watching and being a part of this journey into the unknown. Your support keeps these stories alive, and there's plenty more waiting for you. We drop 3 new stories every week, so if you crave suspense, the unexplained and the downright chilling, make sure you're subscribed and ready for what's next. Until then, keep your lights on, your doors locked, and remember, some stories stay with you long after they're told.